Am I an idiot for not telling my dad he isn't getting the inheritance he is expecting? My mother died when I was 16. My dad married another woman 2 years later. My grandparents, my dad's parents, hate my stepmother. I really don't like her either. Even after my half-siblings were born, my grandparents never warmed up to her. My grandparents are quite wealthy. My father has been banking on this inheritance for a while. He has even been not paying into his retirement because he's so sure that he will inherit the millions. I just found out on Saturday that I'm getting the majority of my grandparents' estate. My father is getting a token amount of $50,000 so he can't dispute it. My grandparents made me promise not to give out any money after and I intend to keep my word. But I do feel really guilty that my father just spends his money as it's coming in because he's relying on money he won't get. I also found out my dad is in a lot of debt. Am I an idiot for not telling him? A lot of people have asked me for updates so I thought I'd make one. It was kind of positive. I agreed with many comments in my first post where they said my grandparents were setting me up for drama. I talked to my grandparents and shared these concerns. They were understanding and set up a family meeting with them, their lawyer, my dad, his wife, and myself. I was secretly hoping that my grandparents would get over some of their issues with my dad and his wife. But no. My dad's wife actually started crying and wailing when they revealed that I would be getting most of the inheritance. I could see my grandmother almost exploding. My dad, to his credit, looked disappointed but said it was their money to do as they wished. The new agreement is that my father will receive $75,000 and each of my younger siblings will receive a 50 Kelvin education fund. My dad's wife did call me a few days later and acted really foolishly, and she somehow thought that insulting my mother would help her. I told her that if she ever said something bad about my mother again I would tell my grandparents about it. That seems to have shut her up. My relationship with my dad was never the greatest, but I haven't really seen any further decline in the relationship. But I feel a lot of relief now. Thanks everyone, not an idiot. But be very prepared for all hell to break loose when your grandparents pass away and make damn sure your father and stepmother do not have a backdoor way into your finances. They will try to guilt trip you, so be prepared for that too. MTA, tell your dad at least about what your dad's wife said. He is obviously with a horrible woman but thinks the pros outweigh the cons. He needs to actually know about the bad stuff when it happens. People like her know which persona to show to which people to try and get what they want. What would you do if you were the dad? Let me know in the comments. Now, you won't want to miss this next story. Am I an idiot for not letting my sister see her kids? I, female 28, obtained custody of my sisters, female 35, kids 9, male 4, female, and 2, female, back in 2018, after she left them alone for 2 weeks to go on a trip, drug bender. Of course, this was a huge transition for the kiddos. They had to be moved schools and daycares, and of course couldn't see their mom anymore. Now, the kids are doing better and definitely lead happier lives. Recently, though, my sister was released from prison and wants to see the kids again. She called me, begging to have a visit with them, and telling me that I could give them back because she was out of prison now. I've had a talk with the 9-year-old, and he says that he doesn't want to see his mom yet, and that he still hates her for leaving him alone. The girls have no memories of her, and the smallest one was only 3 months old the last time she saw her. I do feel like I could have helped them foster a better relationship with her, but I don't want to force the oldest into meeting her when he absolutely doesn't want to. Still, my close family has told me that the oldest doesn't know what he's talking about, and it's my fault the little ones don't remember their mother because I didn't take them to see her when she was in prison. They also told me that it's my responsibility to force them to meet her, even when they don't want to, because that's what's best for them and they shouldn't grow up without their mother. So, am I an idiot? Edit, I have spoken to a professional about this, specifically the oldest therapist. They have advised that it should be up to him. I just want to know if I'm being a jerk to my sister. Also, I have adopted the kids and have full custody of them, so I wasn't expecting to make an update post, because I honestly wasn't expecting there to be an update to this. Unfortunately, I'm wrong. I gave my oldest 2 weeks to really think about whether he wanted to talk to my sister or not. I figured that the decision he made at first might have been made out of anger, so I wanted to give him time to make such an important decision. Ultimately, he decided that he did actually want to talk to her. I have to admit I was a little bit surprised, but we set up a Zoom call between them anyway, of course with me supervising. Right before the Zoom call he admitted to me that he wanted to talk to her, just to see if she'll say sorry. She did not say sorry. Actually, she opened the call with, "Hello, it's been so long. I guess you're ready to come home with me now." And then she noticed that I was sitting there with him, and almost immediately launched into accusations about alienation and how I have to give the kids back now or she'll call the police and say I kidnapped them. My oldest was very obviously disgusted. He asked her if she was going to apologize to him, and she actually had the audacity to ask what she had to apologize for. At that point, he just shut off the Zoom call. I asked him if he was okay, but he spent the rest of the afternoon in his room by himself. That night he told me that he never wanted to talk to her again. Ever. I told him that never is a long time, but that we weren't going to make him talk to her if he didn't want to, and we were never, ever going to give him back to her. He told me that never is a long time. We told him that in this case, it meant never, and I'm still shocked. I don't know what happened to my sister. She was my best friend as a kid. She was almost my second mother. She was sweet and caring and nice. I just don't know how all that changed so fast. Or maybe it didn't change that fast and I just never noticed until it was too late and I was driving 4 hours away at midnight to pick up 3 little kids, one of which I didn't even know existed. Before now, I honestly never considered myself as their parent, even after I legally adopted them. More like I was just taking care of them long term. But now I realize that those kids are my kids, and they're going to be my kids for the rest of my, and hopefully their, lives. Thank you for all of your help, guys. I hope you all have a fantastic day, not an idiot. And when school starts back up, make sure you make the situation very clear to the school. And daycare for the little one as well. There's a good chance she will try to pick them up. Not an idiot. But I just want to say last year at my kid's school, a mother who had lost custody kidnapped her child. She just walked in, chatted with the receptionist, casually said she was picking up the kid for a dentist appointment. By the time she was caught 2 days later, they were in New York. We live in Florida. Now for the next story. Am I an idiot for getting frustrated with my mom for being in the kitchen at the same time as me? I, a female 18, have a super repetitive and predictable routine. Every morning at 9:55, I go into the kitchen to pack my lunch for work. Every morning at 9:55, my mom decides she absolutely needs to be in the kitchen as well, emptying the garbage, rearranging stuff in the cupboards, wiping down the counter, whatever. But it's like she waits for me to go to make my lunch and then comes in. The kitchen isn't very big, so she's always bumping into me while I'm cutting stuff up or standing in front of cupboards I need to get into. I've asked her politely a couple times if she could wait until I'm done. I take 10 minutes, max, but she snapped at me for ordering her around in her own house. Yesterday, I was cutting up vegetables and she came in to wash dishes and ended up bumping into me while I was using the knife. I got a small surface level cut on my finger. It honestly wasn't bad, but I was so frustrated with her that I snapped and said maybe if you didn't insist on being my personal backpack every morning, this wouldn't have happened. My parents are saying I'm an idiot for snapping at her for this, but my sister is siding with me. I feel bad for being rude, but I also think it was partially justified on my end. Am I an idiot? I got a much bigger response on my original post than I ever thought I would. A couple hours after I posted it, I realized I left a lot of information out and wanted to clarify some things, as well as provide an update on the situation. Some people asked if I pay rent or own the house. It's my parents' house, and I don't pay rent. I can't afford to move out right now, and my parents don't want to let me move out until after my first year of uni. Some people also asked if I'm autistic. I have ADHD, which shares a lot of traits with autism. I stick to a strict routine because it's the only way I'm able to remember to do everything I need to in the morning. A lot of people suggested packing my lunch at a different time, or even the night before. I had tried this before. No matter what time I went into the kitchen, my mom followed. I tried it again a couple times since making the post, and she continued to follow me. I took the advice of some people who told me to try going into the kitchen as usual, but to leave when my mom got in my way and tell her I'd wait until she was finished. I even made sure the kitchen was spotless the night before. Dishwasher emptied, no dishes in the sink, counters wiped down, and trash emptied. She followed me in, and when I said I'd wait, she said she was done. Almost as soon as I went back in, she followed me in again and claimed she had forgotten to do something. A lot of people pointed out that she might just want to spend time with me, which I hadn't thought of before. I think that maybe getting a job, finishing high school, and starting to work towards getting my driver's license made her realize I'm growing up and won't be dependent on her, living at home for much longer. Maybe she just wants to spend as much time with me as she can before I go, or maybe she doesn't feel as mom as she did before. What finally worked was, after dinner a couple nights ago, asking her to pack some leftovers from dinner in a separate container for me to take for lunch the next day. She seemed really happy that I asked, and didn't follow me into the kitchen the next morning. She even left a sticky note with a smiley face on top of the container. I also asked if she could drive me to work, which gave us the chance to chat and catch up in the car. I think she just missed feeling like I need her, which I always will. Even though we butt heads sometimes, she'll always be my mom, and I think I just needed to find a way to remind her of that. I wrote my original post feeling super frustrated at my mom, but I teared up a bit finishing this update, sending a massive thank you to all the kind people who commented and helped me work this out. No idiots here. I read your original and thought it was more the case of your mom wanting time with you than her trying to be purposefully annoying. I am so glad things worked out and that you guys are in a better place. Now for the last story. Am I an idiot for not telling my wife that I am dying? Male, 31 here. For the past 15 years, I've been dealing with a medical condition that requires constant medication and consistent doctor's visits. I had always been projected to live until 50 to 60-ish, however, a recent complication has cut that down to 12 months, 16 at best. In about 10 months, my condition should start getting a lot worse. After 12 months, I'll essentially be living in the hospital. I have been married for 4 years, no kids. I haven't had the heart to tell my wife the news. I don't even know how. We always knew I'd die younger than I wanted to, but we never expected it to be this soon. As much as I know I should tell my wife, I don't want my last year to be plagued with an impending doom. My wife and I have always talked about living abroad somewhere, maybe Australia, but we've never found the time or money to do so. I've been saving up to go to graduate school. However, I don't see much point in that now. So here's my idea. Take some of that money and take my wife to Australia for a few months and enjoy the time together. I have a job where I can work remotely from anywhere, and she has a job where she can easily find work anywhere. We can work part-time and enjoy our time together. When we get back, or maybe towards the end of it, I will break the news to her. I just wouldn't want the trip to be ruined for us by constant reminders of me dying. I know my wife, and she's very emotional, to the point where I feel like she will be crying every day and not enjoying herself. I want this memory to be a good one for her, and not plagued by my time ticking down. Am I an idiot for putting off telling her I am dying? Note, I have life insurance that will take care of her, so I am not too worried about spending this money now on this trip. And I plan on talking to her about a sperm bank, just in case she decides she wants my kids in the future, as well as promised birthday cards and other things for her to have. Hey all, I wasn't sure if I was going to make this update, but things are getting gloomier, and I feel that I owe you guys the closure you deserve, for all the help you gave me, as well as the multiple news stories lol. Although I didn't respond much, due to everything being so new and overwhelming, I want each of you to know that I read every single comment and message, multiple times, over the past year and a half. I did end up telling my wife, soon after my post. She took it rough, as expected. It ruined me to see her that way, but I knew that I needed to tell her. She did enjoy reading through the original thread though, as many of you had heartwarming thoughts and messages. We took the time that we needed to ensure that she would be set up as best as possible. Following that, we went and spent the best 4 months of my life in Australia. The experience was amazing, and I couldn't have asked for a better dying wish. We came back just in time for COVID. Honestly, I was scared to death, and still am, but somehow I've lasted this long. I've lost much of my strength, and hospice has come in to set up the house and ensure that I am comfortable enough to die. I had thought that I would be dead by now, so it is hard to complain about getting a little extra time. I've left a large collection of greeting cards in possession with a friend, birthday, first anniversary without me, remarriage, children's birth and birthdays, if she uses my sperm. I didn't tell her about any of these, just because some of these events aren't guaranteed. But I know that they can help if the time comes around. Overall, I'm content, about as content as I can be. There's a lot of things I would have done differently in life if I had known this would happen. But that's unfortunately out of my control. However, I do know that I did the most I could have done with the remaining time I was given. I am just glad that I had time left while I still had my health, as I know that many aren't as lucky. Not an idiot. The only thing I would caution you on is the future greeting cards. I had a friend who did this for his partner after he died, and while it was incredibly sweet and kind, it also stopped his partner from moving on. Every time she received a card, it reopened all of her grief over losing him. Not an idiot. Well, I'm so sorry. I don't want to be an idiot, but are you afraid? How does one handle looking death literally in the face? I can't imagine all that you're going through. I'm so sorry. I'm happy you spent those 4 months with your wife. It sounds like you're handling everything as best as you can. I'm worried my fiance, 34, male, is attracted to my stepbrother, 18, male. I feel disgusted even thinking about this, but I can't stop worrying. We're due to spend Christmas Day with my family tomorrow, and I'm dreading it because of this issue. I'm going to use fake names to make it less confusing. My stepbrother Tim, 18, male, has been part of my family since he was a little boy. I, 33, female, am obviously quite a bit older than him, but we have always been very close. Even though we aren't related by blood, he's always been my little brother. I have been with my fiance Mike for 10 years, so he knows Tim very well, and he has always been very fond of him. They have always spent time together joking and playing around, so that's not weird. I have always thought Mike saw Tim as a little brother. Tim has always been a sweet, bubbly type of kid. He's very friendly and affectionate. He went through a period when he was around 16 when he seemed quite sad and withdrawn. Then when he was 17 he came out as bisexual, and he seemed much more happy and confident once he opened up. Lately he has been back to his usual self. I've noticed he can be quite flirty with certain people, usually my friends. I don't think he means anything by it. It seems like he just finds it fun and enjoys getting some attention. He's a very good-looking boy and people tend to flirt back. I've had to tell off a few of my friends, but there's only been one occasion when someone has been seriously out of line. I had to cut out one of my female friends entirely. Tim doesn't direct his flirtiness at Mike. However, over the last few months I've noticed Mike tends to involve himself when Tim is having those kinds of interactions with someone else. It wasn't blatant enough to say for sure it was intentional, but it was enough that I noticed and started being more watchful. Since then I've noticed other things. Mike can be quite physical with Tim, hugging him, ruffling his hair, tickling him. That wasn't unusual when Tim was younger, but he's 18 now and it seems slightly out of place. Mike has asked him some really personal questions about sex, then acted like he was just kidding around to embarrass Tim when I told him to cut it out. Edited to add. A commenter elsewhere suggested I should include an example of what he asks in my main post. He has asked Tim how he masturbates or what he thinks about when he's doing it. To me that's totally inappropriate. Then recently there have been 2 separate occasions when I've noticed Mike browsing Tim's Instagram, which has a lot of photos of him. Then he seemed guilty when he saw I was there. I know it doesn't sound like much, but I get such a strange vibe from Mike when he's around Tim and I can't ignore it. Am I going crazy? I feel so uncomfortable about this. The fact that my fiance might be attracted to someone else is one part of it, but I am more worried by the fact it's my little brother who's still practically a kid. Part of me hopes I might be imagining things because of what happened with the friend I cut out, but I'm just not sure. What can I do? If I ask Mike about this, he's going to go ballistic regardless of whether or not it's true. I know Tim wouldn't dream of doing anything with him, and I'm confident he'd tell me if Mike was inappropriate. TLDR, I'm concerned my fiance might be attracted to my younger stepbrother and I don't know how to address it. Edited to add, I didn't make this clear, but Mike has never given any indication that he's interested in men. Relevant comments. 1. We've been together for 10 years and were friends for a couple years before that. He's probably known Tim since he was 7-8, I think. I agree that more information might have been helpful. Honestly, I don't even like thinking about some of the things he said. I find it really disturbing. He's still a kid to me and he's my brother. 2. At the moment they don't usually spend time together if I'm not around. When Tim was a younger kid, Mike used to take him to do activities sometimes, but that never seemed anything other than brotherly. I don't want to imagine that Mike would have been weird around him when he was little. There isn't any evidence that he was, and it's such a vile thought to have about someone you care about. 3. What happened with my friend? She started by being flirty and joking around when he was 16, making comments about his looks, saying how cute he is, that type of thing. She started secretly texting him for months on end, getting more and more inappropriate. I saw the text after it all came out and it was very clear that Tim was not trying to steer it in that direction. Eventually she ended up convincing him to let her teach him how to do a particular sex act. Right after that he came to me and told me everything because he felt guilty. I understand that 17 is technically above the age of consent where we live and he wasn't forced. I still think it's absolutely vile and I will never forgive her. She's 20 years older than him and she's known him since he was 6 years old. I'll always blame myself for not noticing what was going on or protecting him. Update. Well, things have certainly changed and you'll be in for a wild ride. We all spent Christmas Day together. To cut a long story short, we had a huge argument which led me to believe my suspicions were correct and we are not currently on speaking terms. I'm staying with family but they are unaware of the whole story. I'll try not to make this unnecessarily complicated. Please ask if anything is unclear. I didn't have a chance to speak to anyone in my family about my concerns before we all spent Christmas together and it didn't seem like it would be appropriate timing anyway. Mike and I were due to spend the day at my mom and stepdad's home. My Tim still lives there full time. We live nearby so we weren't staying over. My mom mentioned the day before that Tim was inviting a friend whose family doesn't celebrate. That isn't an unusual situation, so I didn't think anything of it. When Mike and I arrived, Tim's friend was already there. They were both very friendly and polite, then after a while they went to play video games together in the main seating area. It was quite obvious they either liked each other or were already dating. They were awkwardly flirting with each other and holding hands when they thought no one was looking. Everyone, apart from Mike, thought it was cute. Mike was extremely quiet and snappy for more or less the entire time we were there. He was drinking more than usual. I was driving so I didn't drink at all and my parents only had a drink or two so it stood out. He snapped at me when I asked what was wrong and when I suggested he slow down. It was very uncomfortable. My mom and Tim were both getting anxious. Tim's friend seemed confused. My stepdad was obviously losing patience with Mike's behavior. We ended up leaving right after dinner because I was so uncomfortable and he was silent the whole journey home. When we got back I asked him what the hell his problem was. I don't remember precisely what was said so I'm mostly paraphrasing. He said he guessed that he was the only one who noticed what a rude little shit Tim was being and that he ignored everyone and spent the whole day making out with his friend. He used a very aggressive tone of voice and sarcastic air quotes when he said friend. I told him that was totally untrue and even if it wasn't I couldn't understand why he would be so irate about my little brother paying more attention to his friend than him. I asked him why he's been so weird about Tim, but I made absolutely no reference to the specific concerns I've been having. Mike completely lost his temper and said, "Are you saying you think I want to FK your little brother?" or something similar. It was a bizarre outburst and he said some very unpleasant, graphic things which he decided I was accusing him of. This was unprompted by me and I don't see how he would have jumped straight to that conclusion unless there was an element of truth to it. I don't remember exactly what I said in response. I didn't really challenge him and I told him he was scaring me. He went to the spare room and slammed the door. I drove back to my parents' place and told them we had a fight. I've been staying there since. I told Mike we need to talk and he said I agree, but he's barely been in contact and hasn't responded to any of my suggestions of when we could talk. I have no idea what's happening. My family is obviously aware something is wrong, but I haven't fully explained it and I don't know how. They have noticed it's directed at Tim, but they seem to think it's due to homophobia rather than anything else. Tim is upset and worried. I really don't know how honest I should be with him. I don't even know for sure what Mike's issue is. I have told him he's done nothing wrong and it's Mike's problem. Obviously Mike and I haven't made any decision about our relationship because we've barely spoken. It doesn't look positive. I don't know if I could feel the same about him after how he's behaved. His strange behavior around Tim is also one of several things I've been worried about and his outbursts scared me no matter what caused it. I don't know what the hell to do. I'm open to suggestions. Thanks. More info. I'm not sure where to start as I wasn't expecting anywhere near this many comments, but I wanted to address some of the points being raised. I know I've been sent some private messages, but I can't read them without using the app, and I'm paranoid that if I use the app it will link this to my main account. A lot of people suggested Mike may have harmed Tim in some way when he was younger. I can't say for sure, I haven't asked him. Obviously, I don't want to believe that could have happened, but I realize even people we love and trust can sometimes be capable of doing awful things. I never had any concerns about how Mike acted when Tim was younger. There were also a lot of things going on for time that we are already aware of that explain why he was sad and withdrawn. I've never had any impression before now that Mike was confused about his sexuality. If that's something he's struggling with, it's possible that that's what's causing him to lash out. I've also never known him to be homophobic, but I can't 100% rule that out as a possibility either. As bad as it sounds, homophobia would be preferable to the alternatives. I posted this as a comment, but I'll add it here. When I say Tim is flirty, I don't mean he's sexually inappropriate in any way. He's an awkward teenage boy. It's mainly things like expressions and body language. It's obvious because he's not very good at it. It's normal for teenagers to act like that at times. It doesn't bother me too much if people think it's funny or cute, but grown adults should be able to restrain themselves around a teenage boy batting his eyelashes at them. Not literally, but hopefully you get my point. If he crossed any lines or did anything to make someone uncomfortable or himself unsafe, obviously I would speak to him about that, but to my knowledge he's never come close. I will talk to my parents and Tim today. I just need to figure out what to say. I agree that honesty is best. I'll look into legal advice on how to move forward with Mike. Obviously, we aren't yet married. We don't have kids, pets, or a mortgage. We do have a shared tenancy and a joint account for bills, but that's it. I don't think the relationship has a future regardless of where his anger is coming from. I still want to speak to him though. Update 2. Okay, so I just spoke to Mike. I received a text from Mike saying he wants to talk but wants to explain in writing first to allow him to express himself calmly. He said, "I know what you think this is and I understand why, but I promise it's not like that." He then told me he sent an email and asked me to read it before speaking. I'm paraphrasing because it was a long personal email. He said he experienced confusion about his sexuality when he was a little younger than Tim is now. It went badly. A close friendship ended, and he ended up never addressing those feelings and ignoring that part of himself. Tim coming out brought out a lot of confusing feelings. He admitted that he did initially believe he was attracted to Tim, jealous of people Tim was interested in. He admitted he did think about him sexually. He said he never would have acted on this, and he was disgusted with himself for thinking that way, which caused even more difficult feelings. He said he now realizes that he is envious because he regrets never exploring when he was Tim's age, and seeing him now makes him feel bitter, especially seeing him with his boyfriend. He apologized for his behavior and for lashing out the way he did, and he said he hopes we can talk. I haven't replied. I plan to talk to him. I have a lot of questions. His explanation makes sense in some ways, but I don't know if I'm comfortable with it. It doesn't change the angry outbursts, or the fact that he thought about my little brother sexually. I don't know if that's something I can accept and move on from. He asked me not to speak to my parents or Tim before speaking to him first. I haven't said yes or no. I understand why he's asking, but I feel like I need Tim's perspective. Relevant comments. 1. I don't think I can be in a relationship with him. I'm glad he's being, at least somewhat, honest, and I hope he's genuine, that he would never have tried anything with Tim, but his explanation doesn't change how he's behaved or the fact that he thought about someone who treats him as a big brother in that kind of way. 2. That's true. The fact that he's had those kinds of thoughts is utterly disturbing. I remember the first time they met, Tim threw up on him because he ate too much ice cream and Mike pushed him too fast on a roundabout. I can't fathom how you could see someone in a sexual light when you've known them since they were a little kid. He's basically still a kid now. He might be old enough to vote, but he still seems like a young boy to me. When he was with his friend, maybe BF on Christmas Day, they spent the whole day playing Pokemon, giggling and sneakily holding hands. Then when Mike ranted at me afterwards, he said they were making out all day and the friend was all over him, which isn't even close to the truth. Why does he have to think of him in a sexual way, especially when nothing sexual is happening? It's disgusting. Thanks for watching. This story is far from over and part 2 is linked in the description, as well as the pinned comment. I am female, 30, divorced, my ex-husband male, 36 because of my mother-in-law, female, 60, and suddenly he wants back in. My ex and I were married for well over 5 years and together for 10. His mother was a nightmare. She would spend her time belittling me and trying to humiliate me. I'd take it as I loved my husband and didn't want to make him choose between her or me. Of course, I would always tell him what she would be doing, and he would always brush it off as her being a loving and overprotecting mom when she would say something racist. I am Hispanic, and they are white. He would laugh it off when she would make a comment of me being a gold digger, even though I made more than my ex. He would just say, "Oh, mom." He would also get mad at me if I ever stood up for myself. But the straw that broke the camel's back is when we had our daughter. My mother-in-law would always try to parent her and say that I would be doing something wrong. My daughter has an irritable colon and she cannot ingest any kind of effing oils or artificial things. And guess what that loony of a woman did? She fed my 3-year-old daughter essential oils. She is not anti-vax, just very stupid to make her go to sleep. She was in the ICU. I had it and I confronted my husband, who said she only did what she thought was best. I lost it. I went to my parents and drafted a divorce agreement. That's the best course of action. I saw a post earlier describing a situation that is much more dangerous than mine, involving allergens and an EpiPen. His face was like that Pikachu meme when I served him. He didn't know why I was doing that because we were happy. So now a year has passed and my life is hell. My monster-in-law tried every dirty trick in the book to take my daughter, to name a few. She accused my brother of molesting her. She accused me of neglect. She accused me of taking drugs and leaving them in reach of a toddler. I take their rocks in for heaven's sake. She accused me of endangering my daughter by leaving a random man in my house. The list goes on. During this time, the excuse of my ex was that I broke his heart and I had to understand his mother. She only wants what's best for him. Luckily, I got good representation and even got my daughter full-time minus some weekends or visitation. I could prove that my daughter was endangered by his mother. So now the advice part. I knew that my ex needed to be permanently in my life because of my daughter, and I was learning to live with that. He was very cold with me because again I broke his heart. Now two things have come together. 1. My ex-brother-in-law got married to an African-American woman, so of course my ex-mother-in-law flipped. 2. I started dating again. My brother-in-law is a great guy and he actually stood up for his wife. Go figure. It is possible I stay in contact with him because we are friends and he was a mediator and fought with his brother quite often. So my brother-in-law actually stood up for his wife and my ex-husband got his panties in a twist. My brother-in-law basically opened his eyes to how crappy he was being and that their mom treated me the same way she treated his wife. And finally my dance ex started understanding the guy I am seeing is great. I have even met his parents and his mother is normal. She treats me like a human being and has invited me already to many family functions and tries to make me and my daughter feel welcomed. My ex-gut went from the situation through a mutual friend, and guess who is now flipping his ass? He started bringing flowers and chocolate. I don't even like chocolate. To pick up our daughter, he sent me cards and texts with hearts and who knows what. Yesterday was the best thing. My daughter was at my mother's place and I was at home with my boyfriend. He appears in front of my door crying and clutching my engagement ring, begging me to come back. I said no and that he should go away. He wouldn't and started demanding that I come out to talk to him. My boyfriend told him that he would call the police, and in his pathetic fashion he threatened to beat my boyfriend up. I closed the door and let him pound sand. Today he picked up my daughter for a day trip, and when they came back my daughter was asking if I loved my boyfriend more than her. Now I am at a loss as to what to do. I already told my daughter that it was impossible because my love for her is infinite, and there is nothing bigger than infinite. But now I know that my ex is trying to make my daughter hate me. I am at a loss because I won't use my daughter as ammunition. But also, what the hell am I supposed to do? I will never get back with that man. But I can't take away the father of my daughter. Edit mini update. Thanks to you all, I needed to vent and was feeling helpless. And I'm so thankful for you wonderful people. I talked to my lawyer who confirmed that we could have a case for domestic violence by proxy. A social worker will be visiting us in the next few days to talk to my daughter about this. Another edit because apparently people want to spin the world narrative on me. I don't care if he wants me back. I don't love him anymore and will never get back together with him. Staying together for the sake of our daughter would not make any sense, as it has been proven that the kids grow up happier in divorced homes than unhappy homes. I tried talking to my husband when we were still married, and he would always brush it off. He would brush off everything his mother did. I complained to him and told him we needed to go to therapy, which he declined. He has his daughter on the weekends. The court gave me majority custody because of his mother. Wow, Opus, I'm really sorry. You had that mother-in-law and it cost you your marriage. But also, your husband truly sucks. Spineless little mommy's boy. So good on you for divorcing him. However, there is a lot more to this story, particularly about the mother-in-law. So now let's continue with the updates I just posted yesterday. But it feels like weeks have passed. So I have just left my daughter with my mother and I'm going to my lawyer. Again, I followed some of the advice you guys gave me and we sat down with my daughter to chit-chat. We knew we couldn't prompt any kind of responses by asking overly specific questions as per her therapist. So my mother asks my daughter, let's call her Cat, what do you and daddy talk about? And Cat just listed many toddler things like she talks about kindergarten games, etc. When I was kind of relieved that the comment my ex made yesterday may just be a one-off came the big bomb. He also shows me pictures of houses and tells me I can now have 2 rooms with loads of stuff. I ask her if her dad is buying a new house. Nope. Turns out that Nut wants to take my daughter out of the country. He shows her pictures of beach houses and even bought her a bag already so she can put her stuff inside it. Which explains why so many of her clothes have gone missing. At first I thought that maybe my ex hadn't told me yet because it hadn't come through. But no, he told my daughter to keep this secret because mommy would get sad if she knew that daddy was going away. So I am effing livid. And also sad because I will have to tell my daughter no. Once again, I feel lost. Edit update. I talked to my lawyer and we have taken measures that I can't discuss here, but we are on it. I have my daughter's passport as we flew last month to visit extended family. Also, I am from the US, citizen, so even if my ex-mother-in-law tried to have me deported, that wouldn't be possible. Wow, that ex-husband just gets dumber by the day. But there's not much to say now except let's move on to the final update, where we have a huge reveal. I didn't have enough evidence to request an ex parte, AITA emergency child custody, so my lawyer and I had to work on steps to prevent child abduction. We got a custody decree that included provisions including passports, travel restrictions, etc. We also had to be very wary of the signs. He, in fact, quit his job. And on a realtor's page, I saw that he was putting his mother's house for sale. That, and my daughter's words, was all we needed to notify law enforcement for them to keep an eye out. I couldn't prevent my daughter from seeing her father. We tried to continue business as usual without my daughter feeling something was up. I got a call from the police department regarding the passport situation. My daughter's passport expired very recently, 5-year validity. My ex-husband had tried to request a passport for my daughter without my knowledge, which was stupid, because even without the decree, I had to be present or submit a notarized document of me stating that he could request the passport. After that, things went actually very fast. He was investigated because he violated the decree, and it was found out that his ex-mother-in-law had bought 3 tickets to Mexico with no return. I could now request an ex parte. After a crap ton of documents, I submitted it. Really quick. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to drop a like. In most cases, the judge will evaluate behind closed doors. We had a hearing yesterday. It usually takes 10 to 20 days, which was very good for me. At the moment, I have sole custody of my daughter. This is all temporary. My ex has visitation rights if I was present, but he can't take her anywhere. This is once the investigation of him is closed. I was cursed out by my ex and my mother-in-law, and they said they will try to contest this, but they have no leg to stand on. My daughter will continue in therapy, especially after this. I will not prohibit him from seeing her, but he needs help. This was really scary and a very intense 2 weeks. I don't think I will update again, but I wanted to thank you all for your tips and support. I am really thankful, as I am finally not anxious the whole time. Thank you very much. And that's it. So they wanted to take her out of the country. They already had the ticket spot, and they were one way, no return. Man, I truly hope that X gets some court-mandated therapy to, get his head on straight. He's a moron, and that ex-mother-in-law is just asking for trouble. Now for the next story. My poor baby, my female, 28, mother-in-law, female, 55, pierced my daughter's ears without permission. My overreacting. I've been married for around 4 years and I'm the mother of an 8-month-old daughter, Annie. I'm a first-time mother, but I don't think I'm overly paranoid or anything. Last Friday, my mother-in-law asked if she could pick up Annie early from daycare so she could spend time with her. I said sure. This isn't the first time she's done that, and it's never been a problem. In the evening, I go to pick up my daughter from her house and notice her ears are pierced. I asked my mother-in-law why she thought that it was okay to do that without my permission. She had asked about earrings in the past, and I told her that I wasn't going to put my baby in pain for something cosmetic. Also, I think babies look weird with earrings. She said I should thank her because I didn't see my baby in pain. Apparently, my baby's pain only exists when I'm there to see it. I told her she had absolutely no right to go against my feelings on the matter. She said because I told her she could pick my daughter up from daycare. I was trusting her to make the decisions, and this is the one she made. I was further enraged when I found out my daughter's ears had been pierced at some cheap jewelry store in the mall. If I were going to pierce her ears, I'd have taken her somewhere with professional piercers. When I told my husband about it, he was furious with his mother. He called her to tell her so, and she said that I was turning him against her. He told her that he was removing her from the list of approved pickup people at Annie's daycare because he couldn't trust Annie with her anymore. My mother-in-law sent me a half-assed apology on Facebook saying she still wants to spend time with Annie and didn't expect me to have such a dramatic reaction. Here's the apology. I know that you're mad at me, and I want you to know that was never my intention. I love Annie with all my heart, and you know I would never do anything that would hurt her. When Mill, my husband, said he didn't want me to see Annie anymore, it broke my heart, and that's just not fair. Note my husband never said she couldn't see Annie, just that she couldn't be alone with her. I never imagined you would react so dramatically. I feel like I'm being treated like a child abuser. It also hurts that you apparently think I'm not entitled to any say over my granddaughter. It takes a village to raise a child. Once again, I didn't mean to upset you and hope we can move past this. I don't know what to do. I'd hate to start a family feud, but I really don't trust her with my daughter anymore. Okay, so before we continue with the updates, there's only one thing I want to say to this mother-in-law. Guess what? You are not entitled to any say over your granddaughter. You can have an opinion if you're asked for it, but that's as far as you get to go. And you most definitely don't get to make any decisions like piercing her ears. You dumb. I can't say that. Okay, well, let's move on with the first update. This has been a dramatic few days. My mother-in-law has gone entirely crazy. My husband has been the only one talking to her over the last few days. He wanted her to understand that he was upset too, And it wasn't just me being crazy. She accused me of brainwashing him with pseudo-hippie BS. She's furious that I took out the earrings. She said since my daughter will get her ears pierced again later, that I'm needlessly torturing her just to be petty. She has called several family members to get them on her side. Luckily, everyone has either sided with us or said they didn't want to get involved at all. My 20-year-old sister is our usual babysitter. If she babysits, she'll usually just spend the night because she lives about 45 minutes away. On several occasions, her boyfriend has come with her. He's a great guy. They've been together for 8 years. Seriously. And I love him like a brother. My mother-in-law doesn't like this at all. She's only met him twice and has decided that the only reason he could possibly want to accompany his girlfriend on a babysitting job is to molest my daughter. When she found out we let him change her diapers, she said we were just asking for trouble. My mother-in-law threatened to call children's services and report us for letting some random guy sleep in the same house as our daughter if we don't allow her to spend time with Annie alone anymore. My husband told her not to expect to ever see her granddaughter again. That was last night. I'm just floored. I can't believe it's all turning out like this. My husband keeps apologizing like it's his fault. We've already decided that if she calls, we're going to file some kind of harassment claim against her. I had no idea people could be this crazy. Wow, this mother-in-law just keeps getting better by the second, doesn't she? Oh, wow. Okay, let's move on to the final update after the conversation from my last post. We did not speak with my mother-in-law at all until last Sunday. My sister's boyfriend had a job interview at 7 a.m. Friday morning near our house. He lives about 45 minutes away. He stayed at our house the night before so that he wouldn't have to wake up so insanely early. Anyway, the interview goes well and he feels fairly confident. The problem is, this job requires some on-call hours and that's not exactly feasible from 45 minutes away. His current lease isn't up until mid-December. My husband and I told him that he's welcome to stay with us the nights he has to be on call. I'm not sure exactly how much that would be. Probably a few nights a week. Anyway, on Saturday, my husband talked to his brother. His brother is planning to come into town for the weekend sometime next month and asked if he could stay with us. My husband told him that that was fine, but explained that my sister's boyfriend might be staying with us, so he might have to take the couch. My brother-in-law told my mother-in-law a jerk that went over about as well as you'd think it would. She called my husband and freaked out about us just asking for our daughter to be molested. She also said that it would be better if my sister and her boyfriend were married. If he's a pedo, I'm not sure what difference being married makes, but that's a crazy person for you. My husband hung up on her. This is when S gets really crazy. She called 911. Seriously, I'm not sure exactly what she told them, but something along the lines of our daughter being alone with a sexual predator. The police showed up at our house expecting to find our daughter with a pervert. We explained our situation and the officers, super nice, recommended we make an official report about harassment. We're also going to go for a restraining order. I was mortified that the police had been called, but they assured me that they'd seem crazier. So that's our life. We're attempting to completely cut her out. I feel somewhat guilty if she's having some kind of mental breakdown that we're not doing more to help, but I've got to put my daughter first. If she has mental health, I wouldn't rule out a relationship in the future, but for now, I'm done. And to think this all started with some crappy earrings. Edit, just when you thought she couldn't get crazier, she left my husband an angry voicemail saying she can prove that my sister's boyfriend is a pedo. He didn't believe it, of course, but called her to find out what she was saying so we could tell the police. She said that my sister's boyfriend had been attracted to my sister when she was a child, which is true. He and my sister started dating when she was 12. He was also 12, apparently because he was attracted to a child when he was a child himself. He is a pedo. Hopefully we'll have a restraining order next week and she'll take it seriously. Oh wow, your mother-in-law's mental gymnastics are insane. So yeah, when you're 12 years old, if you're attracted to another 12-year-old, that in the future will make you some sort of a pedo that's just so weird and stupid. It's a good thing that you're getting this restraining order, Opus. Hopefully, she will get some mental help because this lady is beyond wacko.